Hey, Abdul and Dominic and World Traveler from Seattle. Wow, it must be early there. Hi, Neff. Hey, Big Sal. How you doing? Pepsi. Good morning, everybody. Uh, is the sound and video okay? Everybody can hear and see all right? Hey, John. Hi, Hater. Oh, good. Okay. Um, Let me start off with what I think is going to happen. Um, I don't think we're going back to what we saw before, but it already had started beforehand. Let me tell you a story. Uh, Back when I used to write a lot of books, one of the things I found out about was there was this company called Barnes and Noble and another one called Tower Books. Now, these were the major uh, book book buyers. And so the book publishers would do everything they could to be sure to have books that these companies would buy. Now, what happened when Amazon came along, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but initially they were selling books. And people realized they were getting these great discounts on books from Amazon. And so what they'd do, they'd go to Tower Books or they'd go into Barnes and Noble. They would look at the books and find ones they liked and then get it for, 30, 40% less at Amazon. And then as Amazon grew, they started selling everything. Now, what happened with Amazon? Uh, I mean, there was so many companies who this was like I don't know how they missed it. Sears and Roebuck had been selling things, quote, online for years, since the 19th century. There was a Sears Roebuck catalog that would go out all over the country, and at least in the US, and I'm sure they had other ones elsewhere. Why didn't they say, "Oh, wow, this is a place to go. This is what we can do. We're good at this. We know about catalogs." Uh, but they didn't, or at least they didn't do a very good job of it. The same thing with Barnes and Noble. When Barnes and Noble realized that somebody else was taking all their business away because it was online, and more people were going online at the time. Um, so what happened? Barnes and Noble now. I mean, there are a few stores around. I guess there's a couple. I think in the area where we are, and we go there. If they didn't have coffee, I don't think I'd ever go there. But it's sort of fun to go and to look at books. Now, the same thing with watches. They just don't have the variety and type and depth of the kinds of watches that you can get online. I mean, you can look at it online. For example, if you want to see a Gronfeld, I'd go to New York and go to Cellini's and see it there, or I'd go to a watch show like the Watch Time show they have every October in New York and coming back. So here's what I think is going to happen as more and more companies have been forced to go online and they can see the success of other companies. You take Chrono 24 and eBay, both of them are doing very well online. I think probably, see, Chrono 24, I believe, is centered in Germany, and I think eBay is one of the Silicon Valley companies. But, y- you know, what people do, I mean, watch buyers, they'll go anywhere and they'll try to find out where the store is. And then they'll go to the store and try to make a deal with the guy. And if the guy has any kind of setup at all, they'll have it set up for you can buy it online. And people say, well, I like to go see the watch. I've seen maybe one or two watches in my collection I actually was able to play with before I bought one. So maybe it's important. I mean, there's a lot of people say, well, it's really important to them to go into a store and see that. But, um, depending on where you live, if you live in some big metropolitan area like New York or Boston or LA or San Francisco or Denver or Chicago, there's going to be a store there, or Dallas or Houston, one of the big metropolitan centers, or London or Paris, or Geneva. You can go into shops and look at things, but for the most part, people can't. And so I think about, when was it? 20 something years ago, when this whole thing was first getting started, the only way you could go online was with a program called Gopher. And my wife and I were going to visit our son at Cambridge. This is back in the 90s. And so I figured out how to use Gopher and was able to find out the train schedule from London to Cambridge on it. I just thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And then, of course, the browsers came out and they got better and better and better and so forth. And a company, though, early on, Amazon, and why companies have been so slow to do it. Well, the pandemic hasn't given them a lot of choice. I mean, everything is shut down. The companies online have been doing pretty good. Uh, and the biggest problem is getting watches, because the manufacturers, I mean, everyone is, they shut everything down. And so that's been difficult. So what's it's going to look like coming back? By the way, too, I've noticed that on Amazon, some of the brands they finally started getting good prices. For a long time, Amazon would be the last place I'd look for a watch, even a good watch, because the prices weren't that good. They were selling everything MSRP, and you know, none of us need that. So anyway, this is sort of the what is going to be normal now. Um, you have this is especially true for rural places, but even non-rural places. I mean, right now, I went to the store yesterday, I think, and I had to wear one of those N95 masks. I hate wearing masks, but I always wear them because, yeah, you go in there, you don't want to catch the bug. I know people who have, and it's no fun at all. And we had a good friend who died early on from the junk. And I, like I said, I don't like going out, and so I'd rather sit here at my computer and go through all of the online stores they have. And by online stores, I'm not talking about uh, Chrono 24, even though that's one of them. But I'm talking about going to the manufacturer's store, and more of those are coming in. You're seeing a lot more. For used, I'd go to some place like eBay or Chrono 24, or some of these other little places that are popping up with really good discounts. Here's the thing, though, is that I think the competition is going to become more fierce with companies going online. I mean, if they're still around, they haven't gone broke, because I mean, Amazon is getting to the point right now where they're becoming sort of the slower moving dinosaur. And what'll happen is that other ones coming up will compete in two different ways. One way is that there'll be a specialty, watches only, sort of a watch store, and there's some of those that are going on, but they're going to be good at it. The other thing that I've noticed, and this happens, I think they started doing this before the pandemic, but I've seen it really happen in a heavy way. Certain companies have, and I think that this isn't because, again, not because of the pandemic, but the pandemic has really pushed it forward. Is where you have these companies are saying, well, let's try this or let's try this. I don't want to, everybody likes to come in and touch a watch. Well, they're finding out that may not be as true as they thought. And like I said, to me, I would rather find out a whole lot about them. Now, this is, where do you touch and play with watches? this is another thing I think that's really gonna grow. Right now, they have Watches and Wonders in Geneva. They have Watch Time Show once a year in New York and LA, I think, and maybe Las Vegas. I don't know. But these kinds of shows, I think, are going to have, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for those. And they're more than just the ones that I mentioned. I know there's some sort of local ones, a bunch of watch collectors, and I know there's some wholesale ones like that where they get together and they sell stuff. So anyway, so I think that more and more is going online, and I think you're going to see some real competition. I think that Amazon is the reason for it is pretty simple. Well, it goes along lines. Why did the watch companies, the big watch companies, like when I say big, important ones, like Audemars Piguet, FP Journe, some of the other ones, they pulled back their watches from the APs or ADs and have put them all into the boutiques. And so if you want to watch, you can't go to the old ADs. I know that here in Connecticut there used to be two for FP Journe, the Manfredi's and Betteridge over in Greenwich, and that's near the New York border. Plus, people have more money than they knew what to do with there. They can always send it to me. But anyway, that I think is where things are going, and it's not going to be. They're not going back to the pre-pandemic normal. They're going back to a direction that they seem to be heading anyway, but it's going to be a lot faster. By the way, too, my son's a professor in Los Angeles, and they started what they called hybrid courses number of years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago, something like that. And they did it because traffic in LA is just hellish. And the students didn't like having to drive in and this and that. And so what they decided, they would have it once a week when people would drive in, and then they would have the rest online. And it just, everybody loved that. Well, they couldn't have timed it better because once they got it going and up and running, boom, up comes the pandemic. And so people are now doing it 100%. And I think people, they're finding another thing. People aren't going back to work. A lot of people thought, well, I'm going to start my own business. And what they found is a lot more entrepreneurs are starting up online businesses, some of which may be with watches. And so I think that's sort of the landscape we may be going into, more so than would have happened were it not for the pandemic. But the big question is that when are there going to be enough watches? When's the flow of watches going to increase? And that probably, my guess is, it'll be a couple of years at least. So anyway, that's my thing. Let's see what you guys uh okay, let's see who's there. Hi Isa, how you doing? Tim, John. Hey Tom, how Thomas, how you doing? William, Geezer. Uh let's see. Who haven't I greeted yet? Um Hi Lix, how you doing? Okay, it's called The Great Resignation. Yeah. Yeah, well, um staying at home where you have all your creature comforts, and a lot of people like to work from home because of, they got to take care of their kids or something like that. Uh, when I was working, um, and the kids were small, my wife at the time she was gone a lot, and so I take care of the kids, and that wasn't, but I had to be home to do it, and I was writing, so it wasn't too difficult. And I think that, and a lot of people are moving to rural areas, or they're moving out of these, but I'm not sure where they're moving. I know that in my neighborhood, every time a house goes up for sale, it's gone pretty quickly, and I know the prices have gone up, but that's another story. compared to like where we are, compared to New York City or any other urban area, probably Dallas or LA has gone nuts. My hometown of Santa Barbara, I couldn't afford to go back there. Okay, hi, Loose Tooth, what's up? Um, okay, a lot of older collectors are stepping out of the seller's market. The great abstention. Yeah, Clyde, that's a good point, and I'll tell you why. I was looking at some watches. I'm gonna sell these watches, But then I thought about, man, these are pretty nice watches. I haven't paid attention to them that much, and I know I could do pretty well. But I've got a feeling that if you people who buy watches primarily for the watch, not for an investment or anything like that, they'd probably hang on to them. This one I was tempted to sell. This is a Daniel Roth chronograph, and the prices have really shot up since I got this not too long ago. And so I thought, well, I'll sell it and get a better one or something like that. And I was thinking, well, I'll sell my Harboring 2 and get a better Harboring 2. They have this new one I like a lot called the Globetrotter. I thought, well, I'll sell it good. But then I thought, yeah, maybe not. I hate to give something up. I don't know. I have the reason that one of the reasons that I guess I'm optimistic. In the news the other day, there were 3 states, at least in the US, they said that they're seeing that after the peak, they're really going down quite rapidly. And our state, Connecticut, was one of those 3 states. And we've got a really good record of everybody getting shots and everything like that. And, you know, they got but so I'm thinking, well, maybe, because believe me, I don't want to go anywhere with, having to wear a N95 mask. I look like Donald Duck. My wife got some special ones that go out like this. So, but, and so, if I want to watch, I've been getting watches still. In fact, I'm involved in a huge project on one. We None of us have to leave home. It's all done online. And that's, like I said, this is a similar thing, very similar kind of trend happened in publishing because when I first did my early books, I did it on a typewriter, type it all up and send it off to the publisher. It come back with red marks all over it. So go back page one and type it all up, send it off again until I got it right. My God, uh, now you send in a file and the editor edits the file and sends it back to you and all kinds of things like that. The other thing too is that again, this is in publishing. They're having people like editors out in what cheer Iowa or some little town like that who want to be an editor, but they don't live in New York or they don't live in some of these centers, these publishing centers, and so they outsource them to these editors, and the editors, the copy editors especially, they go through and make sure everything's okay. Now, the same, I wonder if this is going to happen. They start outsourcing watchmaking. Like somebody right now, if I want to have some work done, my guy, he's 85 now. He's getting he's sort of backing away from a lot of stuff. I have to find a new watchmaker, but you know, uh, you can take care of a watch now. You set up. Some people have been advertising on High Horology Lounge. They're watchmakers, and they'll take care of stuff for you. Hey, Crappy, how you doing? Yeah, you buy filet online. Yeah, that's another thing. A lot of people during the worst part of the pandemic were having their groceries delivered, and there's a lot of grocery delivery stuff going on now. Amazing. Um, let's see. If you have a piece you've fallen out of love with, there's never been a better time to sell. That's very true. Very true. Make sure you're out of love with it, though. because I thought, "Well, am I out of love with this?" So, I'm not a chronograph fan at all, and so my poor chronographs are always sort of they've got pushed to the line when I'm thinking of selling a watch. The Armory and H. Moser did their total eclipse on Zoom. Yeah, yeah. Oh, a lot of stuff is getting done on Zoom now, and Pepsi, I mean. Yeah, yeah, there's, um, like I said, once it started in publishing, man, they just took off. Quality of work in general is going to suffer for a while. I don't know, loose tooth. It may, but I'm not sure why. The only reason I think you start getting a lower quality from what I've seen is when the people doing the work aren't as good as you could hope. Very first editor I had became a legend in New York publishing, and she ended her career retired. She was the senior editor at Yale University Press, but she had, was in all of these different kinds of things, and she was unbelievably good. And some of the ones I had more recently um, weren't quite up to snuff in a lot of ways. What was it called? Um, there's certain kinds of they're not profanity, but there's a certain kind of expletive. And I asked one of the copy editors about that, and she had no idea what I was talking about. And so, like I said, the quality is going down. But on the other hand, there could be some people who are top quality, they're just not accessible. A person to be a top quality anything doesn't have to be in Paris or Geneva or, you know, or Glashütte or Tokyo or Yokohama or any place, any of the centers, Hong Kong or, anybody can do this stuff online. There's some guys who are from, I think, more rural areas of France who are really starting to do some really good stuff in watchmaking. Hi, Circum Chimney. Every brand is easy to sell except Parmigiani. Um, mm, uh, yeah, Parmigiani is they're trying to go through a sort of a revolution right now. They got the guys who are the head of Bulgari took over Parmigiani, and I don't know. Parmigiani was sort of a funny place. I mean, a funny watchmaker. I love them. I've got two Parmigianis, and I don't know. I would easily get another one. But you're right. They just for some reason they don't seem to sell, and so the prices go down. So they become prime targets for savvy collectors. Hey Lee, what's up? Remember when Zoom Zoom was a car commercial? Yeah, yeah. Zoom was another one. How'd you like to have stock in Zoom? 2 weeks before the pandemic began, went up. Yeah, Pepsi, you're right. They make an incredibly good watch, not just a good watch, a really amazing watch. There's some other the thing that most people don't realize is that they have the in the vertical organization, when you look at Vossure as a movement maker, when you look at Otto Kalpa as a hairspring maker, uh, they have a dial maker, Quadrants, I think is the name of their dial maker, and then they have a case maker and so forth. But their stuff is incredibly good quality, but they're in a lot of watches and watch movements that most people have no idea what's going on. For example, I think Alt, Otto Kalpa makes something like 250,000 spring hairsprings, and they're what Parmigiani they maybe use 2 or 3,000 of those, and so they're going somewhere. Same thing with H. Moser. their hairspring is extremely popular. And but what H. Moser, only another company, has really excellent washes. It doesn't sell much of a volume. That's starting to change now, though. Oh, Clyde, yes, of course you're right, Clyde. Why, you little. Okay, I'm wearing an Omega AT timer. It's 3:25 in Honolulu. 3:20 AM. My goodness, William, you're up in the middle of the night. Hey, Big Sal, they need to redesign the logo. It would go a long way. Yeah. You hear that? Those are fighting words, Abdul. Lee is accusing you of being responsible. What an insult. Yeah, no, there's so many interesting things going on, and I think a lot of people are beginning to look at some new ways. Um, Kernode. Kernode is by Mojon. Mojon owns or set it up. And I was looking at the Kernode movements the other day, and they have one, I think it's called the C102 or something like that. And it's a base movement. But then I started looking at some of the other movements that they have for sale, and a lot of them are mixed in with Salida or ETA or something else. That was sort of unusual. But then they do have a couple from their base movement or based on their base movement, but none of the others in it. And it's sort of an interesting kind of thing. But those, having a movement by Mojon out of Crenode is, now there's something that really tempting, very, very tempting. They have an operational, it works something like Vashur. Vashur, if you buy 25 of their movements, they'll sell you the movement and the case to go with it and everything else, and you can cobble together your own watch. Anyway, uh, Crenode also has, I think if you have to buy 10 of them, and then they give you a break if you buy more than 10, something like that. But this is another thing that is a possibility in two ways. First of all, pretentious watchmakers like myself, oh boy, I'll get one and put it together. God knows what. But there are other ones too, I think, that they're thinking of, well, I can get one of these movements and put together a number of quality components and sort of start up my own watch business for very little compared to the traditional one, because you're starting with a movement that's already done. I think if you go in, I think if you start with 10 of them, it's like about $1,000 a piece, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so these are other possibilities, and the thing is, during the pandemic, a lot of people have had time to think about it. This is why a lot of people say, "Boy, I like staying at home rather than going to work. I'm going to start my own business." I was thinking about it back when I was working at, you know, someplace they didn't like. Um, hey, Young, what's up? Next project. I don't know. Who knows? Hi, Mario. Uh, 74 here in Miami. Yeah, are you guys above water yet? Or still under a little? we're, we're like it was 5 degrees earlier this morning when I got up, and now it's up to a toasty 6 degrees. Crenode did the mutual wine movements with early Chapek. Yeah, yeah, no, they're in a lot of places, Lex. This is one of the things that if you look around, you'd be surprised what's in a watch that's on the good side. All of these watch companies, they blab about, oh, ours are all in-house and so forth, and you find out there's a Solida or ETA in the wood pile somewhere. And you know, to me, the dumbest thing that watch companies do is not to advertise some of the really quality movements. They could advertise, for example, the 5201, I think, from Voiture, is with the micro rotor and so forth. That's a really, really good movement. But most companies that use it, and more than you think do, they don't advertise. They don't, all they talk about, well, we did the dial. Uh, oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, Young. Yeah, I don't know. I've got there's sort of a project right now that's keeping me up. Um, got, watch out for an itchy mouse finger. Oh, I think the Swiss watch industry is a big gang, all insiders. I think so too. I think so too. Oh, okay, guys. Well, it's frying pan time. Uh, but anyway, those are my opinions. It was it, not necessary. I could be dead wrong, and we could go out and there'll be eight ads all over and open up all little shops for all I know. I don't think so though. Let me know what you think. And did anyone see the last vid by ID guy? They probably did. I hope it's a good one. Take care, everyone.